Thank you so much for being here. This is our Level Up with Learning Site series where we are focused on different aspects of Learning Site from Wayside Publishing. And tonight's focus is on Nualang. So the session is called Boost Engagement with Nualang. Nualang is a feature connected to Learning Site, and we're going to explore that more tonight. My name is Alexis Buschert. I'm an instructional strategist with Wayside Publishing. I'm also a former Spanish teacher. And like I mentioned before, I'm from Oregon. And Amy is here as my wonderful producer this evening. I'm going to let Amy talk a little bit about herself.
Hi, I'm Amy Rill. I am an instructional technologist here at Wayside Publishing, and I'm a former German and Spanish teacher located in Maryland. Nice to have you with us tonight.
Thanks, Amy. Amy is producer tonight. She's also going to be watching that Q&A feature. So if you have any questions at all, do not be afraid to put them in the Q&A, and she'll either answer them in the Q&A or she'll interrupt me and we will get them answered here. We are also recording this session, so if you miss something, we will be sending out a recording later on this week or early next week so you can catch up with whatever you missed. We're going to start off with some polls. So Amy is going to launch a poll. This just gives us a little bit of an idea of how you're using Nualang, if you're using Nualang at all. So that first question, how often do you access your Nualang account through the Wayside Publishing Learning Site? So use your multiple choice options there. All right, it looks like most of you have only accessed Nualang once. So I'm guessing that you probably saw the button for Nualang, looked at Nualang, and thought, wow, this is interesting, but I don't know what I'm doing with it. And that's okay. That's why we're here tonight, so we can give you some ideas how you can use Nualang. So for those of you that do use Nualang, our next question is, how are you using it? So your prompt here is, my students practice communication skills in Nualang using, so are they using lessons from one of our textbooks? Maybe they're using lessons from one of our readers. Are they using Nula News? We also have community courses, or have you created your own course? And we'll talk about all of these things this evening as well. So if you're thinking, I don't know what half of these options are, that's okay. That's why we're here. Okay, so most of you are using Nualang that's associated with the textbook, which is great. That's a great way to use it. So again, if you have any questions while we're going through this content tonight, please stick those in the Q&A. You should have a Q&A button in your screen somewhere, a little question mark, where you can type in a question, and Amy will be watching for those. So we are here to talk about Nualang. What is Nualang? Nualang is a practice platform that's associated with Learning Site, connected to Learning Site. Nualang's a separate platform, but it's also integrated, if that makes any sense. And there's several ways that you can use Nualang to practice language. So we're going to talk about all those different ways. As a teacher, though, why would you use Nualang? What do you need Nualang for? There's tons of uses for Nualang in your classroom. So maybe you have a few minutes at the end of class. You can use Nualang activities as a fast finisher. They're great for formative assessment. If you have learning stations in your classroom, I love setting up learning stations in my classroom, and having Nualang be one of those stations is a great way for students to get individualized practice. It can be used for makeup work if students miss practice during class. It could be a great homework assignment. It could be good for review before a test. It's great for differentiation because students get practice for what they need. So if you have a student that needs multiple repetitions for a set of vocabulary or a set of structures or whatever it is, they can go in and do that as many times as they want, where somebody else might not need that much practice. It's up to them. It's great for warm-ups, exit tickets, student collaboration, especially with the discuss feature, which we'll show you in a little bit, for team building, and for class engagement. So what does it look like to teach with Nualang? First of all, there is a progress page so you can see how much work students are doing and how successful they are. Students can save any recording that they do. So if they speak and record it, it will save in their data, so you can go back and listen to their recordings along, as well as see their progress that they've made. You can create assignments as the teacher. And another great thing is that the teacher view in Nualang is so similar to the student view that you can go in and demo for your students very easily, and their experience is going to be very similar. And Nualang is customizable for all teachers. So if you teach with one of our books, for example, Entre Culturas, you'll have the Entre Culturas content in there, but you can add any content from our community courses. You can also create your own content, and you can even create your own content with the support of AI to take some of that work off of your plate and create your own classroom in Nualang. Here are some of the activities that come with Nualang, and I'm going to go into Nualang in a moment and show you what these all look like. I just want to give you a brief overview right now. So first we have some basic practice activities: translation, listening, and pronunciation. So again, students are getting immediate feedback on these, and they can do them as many times as they need to. We've got scenarios. These are pre-written dialogues between two actors that are talking about the unit theme using the vocabulary and structures that students are seeing in the unit. And again, students get immediate feedback because after they become familiar with this conversation, then they participate in the conversation. We have chat bots. These are our little AI-inspired helpers that guide your students through a conversation, either written or spoken. We have Discuss, which is where you can create and assign a discussion prompt for your students, and it records their conversation, generates a transcript, and can even help you grade it. You can also leave very specific feedback using the Discuss feature. And you can also create your own courses, either on your own, completely with things that you make up, or AI can help you out a little bit to take some of that work off your plate. We have a newer feature called Nula News, where every month we're posting a new news article in French, Spanish, and German in two different levels. We've got a novice version and an intermediate version. So this is a comprehensible news article, and then we've taken vocabulary out of that news article and used it to create Nualang activities. And then we have Live. Live is a game where all the students are playing at the same time on their own devices in your classroom, and they're competing against each other for accuracy and how quickly they can answer. Okay, so we're going to go through all of those within the Nualang platform. And as a reminder, to access Nualang, you have a few different options from Learning Site. So the first one is, here I am on my Learning Site dashboard. I can select this Nualang link, and it will open Nualang in a new window for me. So that's the very first place that you can find Nualang. If I click into my class here, you could already see when I selected learning materials, or here under learning materials, I have a link to my Nualang classroom. So that's another way you can get there. If you're in a unit, you can even find the Nualang practice specifically for that communication section. So this link is going to take me right to this unit in this section right here. So multiple ways for you to access Nualang. And same thing for students, they will have a similar view and click path to get to Nualang. And if you're using an LMS, like if you have Canvas or something like that, you should still be able to see those Nualang links. So I'm going to use this one to go to my Nualang classroom. And you'll notice that your Nualang classroom will open in a new tab. If you're teaching with one of our Basel series, so whether that's Entre Culturas, Entre Culture, or Interculturel, you will find that content preloaded into your Nualang classroom. And if you have a reader associated with your book, then you'll also see the reader in there. So in this case, for my Spanish 1 class, I have Entre Culturas Uno and Brandon Brown Quiere un Perro. If I select my book here, I'm going to look at activities out of Entre Culturas. If I select that, it's going to open all of the sections that I have within that classroom. So you can see for the textbooks, these are going to be divided into units. So for each unit and each comunicación section or communication section, I'm going to have a section for practice. So I'm going to go down here to Unit 4, and I selected one of these communication sections. I'll see up here the the can-do statement that's associated with this section. So I can see that right there at the top. And if I select phrases, these are the phrases from the unit that have been pulled out to create these activities. So any of the exercises here are using these phrases. So what I would tell my students before you start doing these exercises, make sure that you're familiar with the phrases. And because I've been teaching these phrases in my classroom, we've been doing lots of activities and I've been providing lots of input for them. These should be very familiar for students already. But it's also a good idea to remind them to look at what the translation is that they have here so that when they're going through the activities, they know what's expected. Because if they see comprar, they might just think buy, but they didn't think about, oh, maybe they could write purchase as well. So it's a good idea to look at your phrases list. Then I'm going to go into my exercises here. So these first three, translation and listening, pronunciation, these are going to be good repetition activities for students to get lots of practice with these particular phrases with feedback, immediate feedback. So translation, it's giving them, we'll just look at it. It's giving them the Spanish and they're writing the English in this case. And you can see there's immediate feedback here. I can also use my word bank to answer those questions. Okay, so that's translation. Listening, it's going to say the word in the target language, and then they're going to produce the word. And I'm not going to put an accent on there. It'll show the correct answer down here. I'm just giving you an example of what it would look like from the student experience because I know I get that question a lot. So this time I'm going to use the word bank. Okay, so you get an idea there. That's the listening. And pronunciation. Pronunciation's very fun, so we're going to do one of these. So as a student, I'm going to click to speak. Por favor. Okay, so it's rating my pronunciation. It gave me a 92%. It can tell, it shows me here, the yellow is I could do a little bit better. And here is where the student can select save recording to report. So if I select save recording, now all of the examples that I do in this activity are going to be saved in my report, and then my teacher can go back and listen later. We'll do a couple more so you get an idea of what these look like. La salsa, 97%. Okay, now I'm going to do some like a novice Spanish speaker. La uva. La uva. Okay, so that one was not as good. La pera. Okay, so my score is getting worse as I am trying to mimic that pronunciation. Okay, so you get an idea. And because I'm actually using my teacher account right now, so you can do the same thing. You can go in on your teacher account and play around with these to get the idea of what the students are experiencing as they're going through and doing this. So, and honestly, I have fun going and playing around, you know, even though I'm not a student at a novice level, it's still interesting to go in and participate in these. So I encourage you to go into your account and play around, and that will also help you demonstrate for your students later when you have them go in and do these activities. So now we're going to look at scenarios, and scenarios again are those pre-written dialogues. The first thing I would do is encourage students to preview the scenario. So here I can read the dialogue and see what's going on between these two actors. And so these dialogues are going to use the vocabulary from this section and also the structures in context. So students are getting lots of great input with these structures and vocab. So now I have a really good idea of this dialogue or scenario, and I have different ways to participate. So it starts off just from listening. I can just listen, get some more input, or I could start participating. So I can participate, fill in the blank. And again, it's giving me immediate feedback. So I'm just going to stick some words in there. So it's telling me those are wrong, so I can go back and fix them. Again, immediate feedback. And this scenario activity will start them out from very basic, so they're filling in the blank, all the way up to they are participating in the conversation by listening and speaking themselves. So this is a great activity to provide differentiation, because you can decide, oh, I only want my students to fill in the blank because I'm really focused on them understanding. Or you can say, these students understand everything already, and I really want them to participate in this conversation, so you can push them to do the listening and speaking. So it's a great opportunity for students to get the practice that you think they need or that they think they need. All right, so that's scenarios. And then now we're going to come to our chatbot. So the chatbot is designed to ask students 5 questions. It's trying to get them to answer the 5 questions. So it's going to prompt them to start the conversation. I can type my answers, or I can click to speak, and it will transcribe my speaking. So I'm going to do that, actually. Prefiero manzanas y fresas. So it wrote out what I said, and then I'm going to submit that. So again, I can type or I can speak. Now, I'm going to be a student for a minute. And I wrote, I don't understand. So if I can't, again, it's trying to get me to answer 5 questions. And if I can't answer them for whatever reason, like I don't understand, or I respond in English or something like that, it is going to prompt me. It's going to try and help me along. So I'm just going to give a 1-word answer right now. So again, it's prompting me to answer those questions. So this is the chatbot, and it will respond based on the student responses, but the main goal is it's trying to get you to answer these specific questions.
Lexi, we have a question in the chat.
Sure.
How do the students enter accent marks?
Oh, great question. Let me go back to, let's do a listening. Oops, I did not mean to do that. There's a little symbol thing right here with accent marks that pop up.
And I think your settings on your computer aren't letting us hear. It did at the very beginning. It was letting us hear when things were correct or incorrect, but then after that, listening, for some reason, it's not picking up.
Ah, okay, good to know. Thank you. I will not pause for long periods of time for you to hear the computer then. All right. Any other questions? Are we doing okay?
That was all I see so far.
Okay. All right. So these are the basic exercises that are written around phrases. So again, these phrases come from my Entre Culturas unit, and then the exercises are built around those phrases. Now, let's say that you are creating your own course, because you can do that. Up here at the top, you can select create, and then you can create your own course and add it to your classroom. So I started creating a course over here, and this course that I'm creating is about winter. And I actually set this course to intermediate low. So once you start a course, it's going to ask you what level your students are at, what languages they're learning. So this one's an intermediate low about winter. And in order to create the exercises, I need phrases, but maybe I'm just not feeling creative, or I'm tired, or whatever, and I don't want to think of all those phrases. I can use AI to help me along. So I'm going to select generate phrase right here. So I've got the topic, which is winter, and then my communicative goal, I can talk about winter. I might specify this is where I'm located, so that's why I am gonna use that. And then I can, so the more specific your communication goal is, the more specific your vocab will be. So I'm gonna select, do I want words or sentences? I'm just gonna go with words right now, and then I can select how many words I want. So let's say 10. And then I'm gonna say generate phrases. And so right now this is using AI to help me build this. Okay, so I'm going to look at my list here. Lluvia constante, yes. Where I live, yes. Okay, these all look pretty good to me. These are words that we would talk about if we're talking about winter in the Pacific Northwest. Okay, so I'm going to confirm, and it's going to bring that vocabulary in. And you can also go in and edit. So if I don't like something, or if I want to add to it, I can just select the pencil button over here and update it. All right, so let's say I've decided I like those phrases. And now I'm going to go back to my exercises. Because I have phrases now, these exercises are generated for me. So the translation, listening, pronunciation, done. Students can start doing those right away. Let's say I'm going to add a scenario, which is that dialogue. I can select add new. And I'm just going to go with you're setting up the title, description, that kind of thing. You can choose your actors here, which is fun because then you can choose your accents. So you can see that I have Spanish from different places. And you can also change your little Nualang guy. So if you want it to be somebody different, you can put them in there, address their name, address their voice pitch, all of those things. So many options. You're going to get some options here. And then I'm ready to start my scenario. So again, I can write this scenario, I can write this dialogue with the conversation back and forth, or I can use AI to help me generate that. So I'm actually going to generate this scenario. Again, we're talking about winter, and how many interactions. I'm just going to go with 8 interactions, 8 back and forth. You can also ask it to generate comprehension questions. So I'm going to turn the questions on. I don't know if I want that many. Let's just say 2 questions. All right, so now I'm going to generate the scenario. So it's creating this conversation, this dialogue for me with some comprehension questions. And you can see I can edit or remove every single line. So if I don't like what it put in there for me, then I can adjust. So here I'm looking over. And this is a pretty good conversation. My students would understand this. They'd be able to engage with it. And then I've got my comprehension questions down here. And you're always welcome to edit anything that's in here. Okay, so I've got my scenario. And then the same thing with the chatbot. I can go in and have AI help me generate those 5 questions that students are answering, or I can go in on my own and write those 5 questions. But that's one of the ways that AI can support you in creating your own course, and then your courses are added to your classroom. All right. So we have talked about creating a course to add. I'm going to go back to my classroom here. I was working on creating a course, but there's other courses that you can add from our community courses. There's a couple ways you can find community courses. So you can go over here to add course in the bottom right corner. You can also explore courses by selecting this compass icon on the left-hand side over here. It says explore. So I'm going to select that. If you teach Spanish, you will see this kind of menu of categories pop up here. If you don't teach Spanish, you're not going to see this exactly, but you'll still be able to search for courses using the search features at the top in the categories. So I'm gonna start off by going to Nualang News. These are all courses that you can add to your classroom, and you'll see many courses that either Wayside Publishing or Nualang have created. You'll also see courses created by other teachers. And you can kind of see who has created based on this little check mark here. So if you've got kind of like from social media, they're verified creators. So if you see a blue check mark, it's something that we have created that's been vetted. If you do not see that, it's probably a teacher creator. So I would just look over that content before you add it to your course to make sure it's something that you want to add to your classroom. I'm going to go into Nualang News right here so we can look at an example from Nualang News. Again, Nualang News, these are short news articles, current event articles that we are adding every month, one article for each language. So we've got a French, a German, and a Spanish. You'll see two versions of it. So there's a novice and an intermediate. So I'm going to go into the novice for December that was added. And with the Nualang News, you will always see a news story. So it's a current event. It's written in comprehensible language so that students can interact with it. There's new vocabulary that's glossed at the bottom here. And they're written to be comprehensible. So this is something that you can read with your students, interact with your students. And then when you go into the activities for Nualang News, it will pull phrases from that article and then use those phrases in the exercises over here. So again, that's in Nualang News. If you don't teach Spanish and you're not seeing this menu, you can just search for news at the top and it will bring up the Nualang News for your language. Okay, so that's adding community courses. If you see something that you like, you can add. So let me go back to Nualang News, and let's say for this one about Las Posadas, I can go to add to classrooms and it will allow me to add. It'll bring up my list of classrooms and I can choose which one to add it to. Okay, a couple more features here. Live is the class-wide game, and this is something that I would do when all my students are in the classroom and we're ready to review. Or we're at the end of class and I want to get a temperature check and see how students are doing, or maybe we're bored and we just want to have some fun. So I'm going to select Play Live as the teacher. And it's going to ask me which book I'm going to use or which course. So we've been looking at Entre Culturas Unit 4. And then it's going to ask me what kind of game I want to create. Translation, listening, or I can use that scenario game, the scenario dialogue, and it's going to ask them some questions from this scenario. But I'm going to go with listening right now. So I'm going to select listening. And it's creating a game for me. And now on the student end, when students open their classroom, it'll have a flashing button that says join live game. And then as students join, they'll appear down here. A few benefits to why this is better than other games, the other game platforms that you might have played before. First of all, only students that are in your classroom can join your game. Second of all, it's going to use their name that's officially rostered for the class. So they can't make up their own name or add emojis or anything. And third, you don't have to create anything. It's art. This game's already created for you. As soon as you pick the book and the unit that you're in and which type of game, it automatically created that. You have some great settings up here that as your students are coming in are really useful to look at. So in your game settings, you can decide, do you want students when they answer to use the keyboard only, the word bank only, or both? How long should they have per question? And then how many questions would you like for them to have? So take a look at those settings as your students are coming in, adjust as needed. And then what will happen with the listening game, once all my students are here and I select start, because it's listening, my computer will say the word, and then all the students on their own devices, whether it's phones, iPads, tablets, computers, they are typing in what they heard as fast as they can, or using the word bank. And then once all the answers are in, or I've moved on to the next one, it'll rank them based on how quickly and how correct they were. And they can adjust their answers, and they also get more points for typing with the keyboard than they do for using the word bank. As the teacher with the listening, so my computer is the one playing the audio, I can play it as many times as I want. So if I want to keep repeating it over and over, I can do that. So this is live, and again, to access live, you're just going to see this live button right here, and you select that, set up the game, and then students will have a live button flashing on their end. Their platform looks just like yours, except they have a few less buttons right here. Okay, our next feature, let's talk about discuss, and then we'll talk about assigning. All right, so discuss, I'm going to select discuss right here. Discuss, you can create assignments, discussion assignments, where students are all logging onto their own devices and recording their conversation based on the prompt that you've given them. So I'm going to schedule a discussion down here to show you what that looks like. Discussion topic. I'm going to stay with my winter theme. Do you like winter? You can add a discussion, so you can add more details here. I'm just going to write speak. That's the only thing I'm going to add for their discussion prompt. You can decide which level. You can add images if you want. And then you're going to set a time, either 1, 2, or 3 minutes. So I'm going to say 3 minutes. And then my due date is set for tomorrow. So I'm going to keep my due date for tomorrow. All right. Now I need to create my groups. So I can create the groups individually, or I can have it create the groups for me. So I'm going to say I want groups of 2, and I'm going to let it create the groups for me. I have to have 1 group of 3 because I only have 5 students. Okay, so now it's created the groups, and I'm going to schedule this discussion. So students will see that they have a new discussion assignment, and they'll be able to go in and do that. So when students complete these discussions, they need to be logged in at the same time as their group. So they would all go log in on their own devices at the same time, and then they'd be able to record their chat. So let's look at a completed one to give you an idea of what these look like. So I have a completed one here. And once a discussion has been submitted, I get the video, and then it also generates a transcript over here on the side. So I know my sound's probably not working, so I'll just play it for a second. So I don't know if you can hear it right now. Sorry if you can't hear it, but basically it's created a video of this discussion. One thing I really like about this is it auto generates these backgrounds behind them. So I think that that's, you know, nice, clean, safe thing for them to have an auto generated background. Also, they can turn off their video so they can just have an avatar if they don't feel comfortable being on camera being recorded. So as the teacher, students have this discussion, it creates the video, and then the transcript is created over here on the side. This feedback has already been generated, but we are and it's been submitted to them. But you can generate feedback for students. So if I select generate feedback, again, it's using a little bit of AI to help us out. So it creates this comment for them, gives them an area of strength and an area for growth. You don't have to have a generate feedback. You can write your own feedback in there, but it will generate feedback for you. Okay, so that is discuss. This is separate from any of these courses that you have. So back to my example here, you know, I have Entre Culturas and Brandon Brown in my classroom, but discuss is separate. So it doesn't have to be tied to Entre Culturas. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Okay, I'm seeing some questions in the chat. I'm gonna talk about assigning and grades for students, and then we'll go to the questions. All right, so let's talk about assigning. Can you create assignments in Nualang for students? Yes, you can. If I go to assignments right here, I'm gonna go to create assignment down in the corner, and it's going to ask me which class, and then I can add exercises. So I'm gonna use my example from before. I was in Entre Culturas Unit 4. And then I can either select all of these activities or just some of them. So I'm going to select all of them and then add exercises and then add description. Who do I want to assign it to? And then my due dates right here. This will create an assignment in Nualang. It is currently not going to post in Learning Site or LMS. Amy, correct me if I'm wrong. It is currently only going to post in Nualang. So I would direct students to Nualang to look at their assignment. You don't have to create an assignment. You can. You can also tell your students, hey, we're working on Unit 3, Comunicación 1. Please do all those activities by next week. But if you want an assignment so that they have like a to-do list that they're checking off, then you can go in and create that assignment. How do you know that they've done their assignments? There is a progress tab right here. And this progress is going to show how much they've completed of the course. So you can see none of my students in this class have done any work. I'm going to navigate to my class where they have done some work. Is it this one? Okay, so you can see in this classroom, I have had a student do some work. So if I select view course and then view section, all the way down to the lesson, this will show you what they have completed and they haven't. This is showing me percentage complete. You can also select correct answer percentage if you'd rather see that. So this heat map is what's going to show you. If I want to see individual student work, I can select the student. And this is set to the last 7 days. So it's not going to show me anything I need to show from a long time ago. But this will show you all the student work. And if you have any recordings for that student, that's where the recordings will be within the student. Okay.
Lexi, there was a question about LMS. So you mentioned before about if you're assigning inside Nualang, it will only post inside of Nualang. In our second edition text, so Entre Culturas, so the 2026 edition, or 2020, it's 2026, correct?
I think it's 25.
25. So second edition text, also your Entre Couture, that's 2027, and your Interculturel, there is that opportunity to assign a link to an activity inside of Nualang from your table of contents. So you can assign inside Learning Site to those Nualang activities. Inside your LMS, if you do have Schoology LTI 1.3 integration or Canvas LTI 1.3 integration, you do have the option of assigning from either your drop-down menus inside of Canvas or inside your add materials function, and you can create a link inside your LMS that will take you to Nualang. But none of those scores or anything will pass from Nualang into your LMS. So there was a question about that.
Thanks, Amy. I'm glad you're here. Okay, I mean, I'm always glad you're here, but especially when it's an LMS question. All right, so I saw a question from previous edition versus current edition. I was showing you everything in the newest edition. I can go back to a previous edition and show you, but you might have slightly different content, but the functionality should be very similar. Let's see if I can find, there's my first edition. Okay, so here's my original Entre Culturas edition. Same thing if I select Nualang. It's going to take me to my Nualang classroom, and I'll have the content in there. You will see the lessons from the units. And you have assignments, you have discuss, you can add courses. So all the features are the same. It's going to be the content from the first edition book instead of the newer edition. This one has a little bit more progress in this class, so I can show you what it looks like. The student still hasn't done very much work. My students need to get on it and do some more work. All right, any other questions? I'm sorry that my sound cut out partway through.
I am just checking in the chat to see. There's a question about, let's see, we were recently told that if we use AI to give feedback, then we should also make sure that we give credit to the AI tool. What would that look like for Nualang? I don't know the answer to that question. Do you?
I don't either. That's a great question. We'll pass that along to our Nualang team. And that might be a district specific ask, so that might be a good question for your district too. What are they looking for?
Yep. And that's also something, if you have any questions, and I'll share in the chat. Actually, I can share it in the chat now. If you have any questions like that, you can always send something to your account manager, and your account manager can pass it along to our team, and we can get you answers. So I'll post that in the chat now.
Okay, great question. How do you invite students, and do you invite them to activities? So if your students have learning site accounts, you shouldn't need to invite them. What should happen is that you select your link. So I would, as a teacher, I would select the link, and it opens the Nualang classroom. It builds the classroom. Then students would go into their account and select the link, and it will place them into your classroom. So with these 5 students that I have in my classroom here, I didn't invite them to join. They just went to their learning site and selected the link, and they were placed into my classroom. Yes, we did record this, and we will send it out either later this week or early next week. Yeah.
I was just typing that response. Yes, we will be sending out a recording, and you will get a follow-up email with recording and resources that come to you later.
And remember, if you ever have questions, you have Can Do down here in the bottom right of Learning Site. Can Do has lots of helpful information for you. And in the bottom left, you have this question mark button that has links to support as well. Well, I hope that you all have a chance to use Nualang with your students, because it's very engaging and exciting, and it's just the thing that I love about it is that there's so many opportunities for differentiation and for students to get the individual practice that they need when they need it with the feedback, immediate feedback. do students have access at home? Yeah, students, I don't know if students have Can Do in the corner. Do they, Amy? I know they have the help option. Students have the help button in the bottom left
No,
corner.
they do have the help menu on the left-hand side inside Learning Site, but they do not have the Can Do owl icon.
Which Nualang features would be the best or easiest to start with for teachers and students? I think if I were getting started, that's a great question because I did show you a lot of things. There's a lot of things you can do. What I think is the easiest, here I'm in the first edition, I'll just show you there. I think the activities associated with the units are the easiest place to start. So if I'm teaching Unit 3 and I go into one of the lessons, I think just starting with these is the best place to go. And then once you have the hang of these, both you and the students, once you have the hang of those, then you could, start building courses or bringing in community courses or Play Live. I think Play Live is also a really fun place to start with your students. But remember, so I'm in my teacher account. This view is very similar to what students are seeing. So you can go step by step with them and say, okay, click here, do this, and you can all do it together while you're showing them because your view is so similar.
There was a question about student names. So students are not listed alphabetically by last name in Nualang. Can you change that? I believe at the current time they remain in that order by first name. And as Lexi mentioned before, it is the information that is pulled from your roster data. So however your students are listed in your roster is how they will be listed in Nualang. So this at the current time is not able to be changed. Good question.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Before we go, a couple of things. First, we would really appreciate your feedback. The more information that we have from you, the better we can make these sessions, and we want to make sure that we're here to support you and giving you something you can use. So you can either scan the QR code, put in the URL that's down here, or Amy's putting that in the chat. Just a very quick survey for you. Secondly, you get a certificate of participation for coming this evening. So again, you can either scan that QR code, use the link, or use the link that Amy's putting in the chat right now. And you will fill out a form, and then you will be emailed a certificate. If you don't see that certificate in the next couple days, let us know. But it should all be automatic and work well.
And if you don't see it in your inbox, check your junk or spam. Sometimes it gets sent there instead.
We have some more webinars coming up about Learning Site. The first one is on February 9th, and it is back to basics. How can you best use Learning Site to support your teaching? February 9th is for Entre Culturas, the 2023 edition, and Entre Cultures, the 2025 edition. So those are the original editions of French and Spanish. February 11th will be the new editions of Entre Culturas and Entre Cultures, as well as Interculturel, the German series. So if you're interested in attending, please note which edition that you have and that you're using so that you can attend the session that works the best for you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate your time. We know that after a long day of teaching, the last thing you want to do sometimes is watch a webinar, but we are so thankful that you're here. Hopefully it was helpful for you and you were able to get something out of it. And we wish you happy teaching. We hope to see you again at a future Level Up with Learning Site event.